Listen to me and I'll tell you no lie. Too fast to turn, too low to climb. I got a cool machine and everybody say, whew, takes your breath away, border gliding.
Well, hello everybody. Welcome back to the 10th clip number 10 in a series of 12 clips covering a 427k competition flight in Condor virtual reality that was carried out in March 2021 with 23 competitors, only 4 of whom got round. I flew it later on my own and managed to get round by a miracle. I found it very difficult and I got round slowly, but I managed to do it. And then when I started to make these YouTube clips, I really wanted to do one about this flight because it's really quite a challenge, it's a very difficult kind of task. And but I hadn't kept a replay file, so I realized I could load up my flight record from the flight I did in 2021 and follow my ghost, as it were, around the task to get around it in October 2022. But around turning point 4, I know that my ghost had got into trouble on the first task and didn't like the way they'd gone really, so I decided to go my own way. So I haven't seen them since turning point 4, which was a while ago. And I'm now heading for turning point 5. And let's just look around and refamiliarize ourselves. Our turning point is somewhere over there, but we couldn't get over the water to it. Didn't have the height. And down towards the coast, as you can see, there wasn't really enough that was reliable to get liftoff to cross this estuary and to even make it round sort of close to the coastline. So we were flying more in from sort of that way, like under the midpoint of the starboard wing and along sort of the line of hills and sort of slopes area into wind, working our way around, also mucking around with one weak thermal, which wasn't a lot of use really. And we've had to sort of work our way back in towards these hills, stroke mountains here, looking for into-wind slopes, and sort of go from there. So, right, without any more ado, let me just press the play button and get started. Right, off we go. So, the wind is at 295 degrees. At 21 knots, and we are currently slightly west of north, so the wind is probably sort of somewhere like that, I would say, and I think we're probably looking to come into this kind of ridge here. It's like a bowl really sort of formed by this one that's running fairly parallel with the wind, and a bit further on, just in front of the nose now, and you can actually see the wind drifting us back. Actually, you can see that our relative movement being just pushed to the right as we fly in, and I think we're hoping to start picking up some good lift here. We're at 2,700 feet, so a reasonable altitude. Yeah, so we hope this is a reasonable wind trap in here, although of course with that gap there something can leak through, but here we go. Lift starting to happen. Yeah, quite good already. And let's see what happens as we come round onto this part here. Yeah, lift good and steady. We're back up to 3,000 feet. I'm allowing myself to be drifted back onto the slope just to see if at any point it gets better. If it doesn't get that stunning, we'll just kind of obviously decided to explore it a little bit. Again, as I always say, I'm having a bit of fun flying and exploring what's there. Never mind cracking on with the task to be the fastest on the planet. And just a reminder again, the top competitor flew this task was 131 kph in about 3 hours 15 minutes. I did it the second time around at 82 kph in something over 5 hours. So, you know, I'm not fast. But, you know, 82 kph, it's the kind of speed you'll often see people doing tasks on. But I think a good flyer who knows how to work slope lift like this would expect to achieve sort of faster speeds. The Llewini Parc was carrying full water ballast, so they would have been storing energy and been cracking on at quite a pace, like 80 or 90 knots. The risk of that being, of course, is you're liable to be low and fast to stay in the strong energy field of the ridges, which means you can't see very far ahead, which means you've got to have a better idea of what you're going to do with whatever turns up next. There's a higher risk. And I remember this surprised me slightly on the task. I wasn't particularly expecting that as I went over this bit here, things would just suddenly get super magical. At the moment, we are pointing pretty much directly into wind. Okay, yeah, you know, the wind is kind of blowing 45 degrees on that, but we're well above it, and suddenly we're getting like 6 knots. So I think Condor's perhaps being a little bit generous here. Still, you know, there it is, I'm using it. But you can see now from this height and with what's around me, I'm not really at all fearful now of not being able to stay up. I mean, you know, there are plenty of places I can go to that should be able to sort of give me some kind of lift. But really, I don't want to get pushed back that to the right, because that's not where I want to be going. So I'm really looking for stuff that'll work for me, you know, straight ahead. I would like to be, and you can see the coast, you can see the sea beyond the last of those mountains, and to the right, stretching away, is the peninsula that goes down to somewhere like Abersock, way down on this side of the peninsula, and Neffin, where our turning point. You can see a bit of a hill underneath that cumulus cloud there. It might be sort of down that way, more or less, perhaps not quite as far as that. So we really, with the wind being what it is, we want to get on the far side of the mountains. You can see ahead of us, that sort of range of hills. We really want to get onto the other side of that. And to do that, I could see me trying to, I can just, and it's slow at the moment because I'm kind of pushing pretty much directly into wind. If I could get onto this kind of slope that's very slightly right of the nose, and then perhaps ride that round from the sort of, that sort of bit there under the nose now, ride it round to the right until I come round onto that brown-looking kind of higher mountain face, which ought to be quite nicely into wind. I would hope that would give me a pretty good launch pad to then go shooting out in between the gap between the line of mountains there and that one that's on its own, when you can see a gap through there, to get onto the windward side of that. But let's see what I actually do, because I can't quite remember. I think I've decided just to put my nose down and get on with it, get to that ridge, not dawdle quite so much. And should we need to, we look as though we'd have, which I sincerely hope we don't, and of course I know very well that we won't, and we don't have to, even look to be some fields giving sort of land-out options down there in that valley. But we're a million miles away from needing to think about anything like that. Seems to take forever to get to this ridge, that's for sure. But while we're doing it, we're not sinking much at all. I'm not quite sure why that is. Oh yeah, well there's a bit of a face here, isn't there? See, you don't even notice these things in Condor VR half the time as you fly towards them, because they don't kind of show very well in relief. Sometimes it's when you're going over them, you're wondering why the lift is better than you expected, and you look down and you think, oh yeah, well it's you know, it's kind of rising ground there, even though we're well above it. But this is the collection I want to get onto. And again, now that I get to it, it's not shaped how I imagined at all. If anything, it's rather better. And that's why I'm steering slightly to the right now, because I can begin to see that the real slope is to the right of where I was aiming. This is not really so exciting. But round to the right here looks as though we could have some real fun. Let's see. So you'd hope to get a bit from this here, but for things to really get interesting when we get to the steeper, taller mountain face, that's pretty much on the nose, you know, on the nose now. So yeah, okay, not hugely exciting, getting a bit better. And we're pushing along at 80 something knots as well, so we're not stopping for particularly, because it's this slope up ahead that I am very interested in, because it has a commanding height. So if I can rise on this one, I should have a real command of things. So at the moment we're at what, 2,800 feet more or less. Not quite sure why I'm not flying a bit more directly at that mountain, but perhaps I'm just letting the wind drift me back and feeling my way in. I like doing that sometimes. Nice big mountain face this. Here we go. Now what will I do? Will I settle in this one, or will I hop over this ridge? Because that one over the ridge looks even more magnificent, doesn't it? I have a feeling that's what I'm going to do. Whoa, this is... oh yes. Look at that. Off the scale. Off the scale. Magnificent. Wow. See, this is where I find Condor so much fun. I mean, just look at this. Look at the rate we're rising at. We're just being blown over the top of this mountain. Incredible. Wow. It's the most exciting lift on this whole trip so far, and look how the vista has changed instantly. Magnificent. Coming back for some more. And we're at 4,000 feet, just like that, pretty much. Magnificent. And I'm now starting to look at where my aiming point is, or where my turning point, rather. I think I'm just enjoying myself here, seeing how much we can get out of it, and just circling above it. What fun. What fun. Wow. This is so cool. So cool. $4,300. I must apologise, I'm going to pause it just for a moment. My phone is going off. Should have thought about that. Hello? Hello?
Hi, is this Mr. O'Neill?
Yes, hi. Right, so sorry about the screen jump. I just had to take a call when I was in my virtual world and come into the real world. And then restart the thingy. So, right, okay, let's restart. Off we go. Completely forgotten I was talking about, but it can't be very important. Just the usual chit-chat. So, right. So we are now going to head off towards the turning point, which is very slightly left of the nose. But although it's slightly left of the nose, if I was to go straight forward, it would take me behind those mountains right on the coast that are in the middle distance. So, well, actually, yeah, the direction to the turning point seems to have changed a bit. So, yeah, we will be going ahead. We'll be going to the right of those mountains by the coast, because I feel a bit safer doing that than going the other side, where I'd probably be in the lee of them in places, and I would be subject to sink. Whereas if I go to the right of them, I should have opportunities to pick up lift and keep the show on the road. I'm also very slightly jinking to the right here to stay out of the lee of this immediate ridge of mountains, and then I'll turn left onto their line to get more lift. 30 kilometers to go, and the PDA is telling me if I carry on like this, I should reach the turning point at about 1,370 something feet. But you know, that changes a lot depending on how you fly and what lift you pick up along the way. And I'd like to reach that turning point rather higher than that, I think. It's just a guess at this stage, but let's see how we get along travelling down there. Because after that turning point, we're going to have to come all the way back this way, and I think we've got to go back over those mountains that are underneath the starboard wing to get to Conway, which is the final point, the final turning point 6, where we can then beetle back to Llewini Parc, which is the airfield for Denbigh Gliding Club, with the wind pretty much behind us. And in the meantime, what great scenery. I love it. Right, I'm bearing to the left just to see if I can stay in a line of air that, you know, will keep me up. You help me maintain height while I move towards the turning point a bit. Again, I'm exploring, you know, perhaps this wasn't really necessary. Perhaps I should just put my nose down and go straight for the coast, and then just chop up like mad there, but I don't know. I always have this slight feeling that if I did that and didn't take the opportunities that are here on my way, I might get there and regret not having done it, because I don't know what the lift opportunities are going to be like over there. I mean, I suspect they're going to be pretty good. In fact, of course, I know perfectly well they're going to be good because I've flown this task before, but you know, the first time I flew this task, that's certainly how I would have thought. But boy, we've come some way. When you look back over there, way beyond the, you know, the visual, the limited visibility in Condor and stuff and things, you know, it's been a big flight, and we've still got a way to go. But I'm beginning to feel confident now, because we've got big mountains here. Well, big by the standards of Wales, but more mountains than just these low-lying coastal cliffs and slopes. And then when we go onto the final glide, we will have the wind behind us in a plane like this with a glide ratio of something like 55-1, or 50-1. I'm not quite sure what it is, but it's good anyway. So as long as we don't cock it up getting down to this last turning point over these flat bits, hopefully we'll be okay. Like another airfield over there, just where you can see that inlet in the sea. There's another estuary. Lots of them, aren't there? There's a kind of a strip. Just come out of the reflection from the windscreen. There's a kind of a strip that's kind of appears to be almost like lit up, and I think that's a runway. I'm not sure what runway it is to what airfield. This is where you kind of wish you could pull out a map in virtual reality and just look at it. If I was actually flying the task, I could switch to the map view on this PDA, but again, I don't think it would. It's not a very good detailed map, and I don't think it would give you the detail what that airfield is. Of course, in a real life task, you would know, and you would have to know full well what these airfields were, because you'd need to watch out for them and watch out for aviating that might be going on around them. So as I said in one of the previous clips, in real life with this kind of task, you shouldn't be doing something like this without doing your homework first and having a map, onto which, with a wax pencil or something in front of you, put out where you're going to fly and marked up things that you need to watch out for, particularly like airfields perhaps, danger zones. And don't forget the RAF operator lot round here. You've got the Mac Loop somewhere in these mountains. All I know, I've been through it here. I don't know quite where the Mac Loop is. And you've got RAF Valley, where they do all the kind of fighter pilot training and things and stuff on Hawks and that kind of thingy. So there's lots of stuff going on around here. And you'd actually need to be keeping in radio contact and calling up various places to let them know you were there, what height you were at, and all kinds of things. So, end of this clip. Okay, there'd be a good load of extra pilot workload in the real world, and pilot responsibility and diligence and that kind of thingy. But for someone like me who's not skilled at all that, I mean, I've done a bit of cross country flying in my past, not tons, all done in using thermals over flatlands. And with very little use of radio, and pre-existence of these PDAs as well. So it was done just using a map, whatever. And I haven't got my RT license, so I'm not a confident radio user. So by and large, I just try to keep out of the way of stuff. But even since I was doing those in the early 90s, airspace has become busier, and the technology's become far more sophisticated, and you're expected much more now to be identifiable and to keep in touch when you're doing things. And of course, proper pilots these days will be good at all that. I mean, the proper pilots always were good at all that, but I was always a bit of an occasional low hours pilot, so I wasn't a real regularly in training current pilot. Anyway, that's the end of this clip. I hope you enjoyed it. Like and subscribe if you did, if that's the thing to do. And if I've worked out how to put the bell notification button on the screen, click the bell to get notified of the next clip. In the event that I don't put all these clips out at the same time, which I might not. Might sort of do it a bit like a kind of a serial where I release, one a week or something. It allows me to get the first ones out while I'm still finishing off later ones. Anyway, okay. Bye for now. Look after yourselves. Thank you for watching. As I take off the visor, it'll look like I'm bailing out the aircraft as usual. All right. Bye for now.
We're here